guys hear me? Test, 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 test. All right. Am I coming in? Baranka Tower, Baranka Tower. Can you hear me? Excellent, excellent. That's great. Well, I guess we can get rolling here a couple of minutes early. Didn't have a lot of time to prep for this, but I was actually out in the Tarbis doing some stuff that I think you guys might find kind of interesting. That's the picture on your bottom right. I thought we'd talk about dioramas tonight a little bit. And came across a lot of you guys have sent me some really great links of YouTube videos and other stuff on building dioramas after I talked about it. And one glue trooper said he had a Godzilla kit in the stash he'd send for me to work with, so I could relax about, you know, having to modify a perfectly good kit. Thank you for that. So here's what I did today that I thought was we went by Jack's. Okay, well, cool. Let me just run some pictures. What I did was I wanted to test my wife's idea of taking a granular medium and getting the thing set up the way you want it before you surface it out. So I found a granular medium that was here in the house that looked like it was enough. Turned out it was only about half as much as I needed. Grabbed a couple of different sized old aquariums that we had. Just now, mind you, this was just a proof of concept. This is not intended to be the diorama. I grabbed the Godzilla doll off the, because that's not a kit that I built. That's just the one that we bought that's slightly posable. Grabbed the submarine and just wanted to see how this would work. So let me put this up here. I got a slideshow here. Okay. The first diorama. Well, what made me decide to do this, I guess I should point out that I was working on the pirate ship today, which of course is actually the old French ship model. And I was making all the cannons. And I just happened to be lining the cannons up as I was making them because there's like 30 of them on this ship. And I was like, you're thinking you've got dioramas on your mind when you're working on a model. And as you lay the guns out, you just go, hey, that kind of looks like I could make a tabletop diorama out of that. And of course, the first thing you think is, yes, it was kitty litter. I was like, hey, let's just grab this Ghidorah here, put it here. It makes you think, ooh, there's a story, Ghidorah, 1781. Yeah, I was thinking about labeling this one, yeah, this is not going to end well. I might work something like that into the Godzilla Chronicles when I get going on it. Anyway, I just, you got dioramas on the mind when you're building a model. You start doing stuff like this while you're building it, just because, ooh, that's so cool. Like, okay. Anyway, so I thought I just took a couple quick pictures. I thought you guys would get a little tickle out of that. So I grabbed the, let's see, make sure I get the right one here, because I got a couple of them to show you. And it's a good thing to do these proof of concept things, because it's testing. My wife says I'm just playing with toys, but it's testing. This is research. So you're about to see the glorious outcome of several different tests. And it turned out that I didn't have enough of the granular medium to do it properly. And I actually have... I'll experiment with putting boxes inside the boxes to eat up some of the void space, so the granular medium would stretch a little further. But what I was trying to do is just see if this would work. And the idea is to make this posable. And like I say, the idea is to be able to set it up so that you position everything the way you want to, get it just right. And once it's there, then you cover it up and put the water or whatever, whatever kind of surface you're going to have over it once you got everything. But this allows you to change positions with it and experiment. And in that regard, it worked. of course, mind you, this is well, I got the tail plucked off in some of these pictures, and I wanted the submarine to look a little bit more like this, but I couldn't get because that Godzilla doesn't come apart except for the tail coming off. I couldn't get him low enough. And when I tried using a deep medium, here's what I did. The first is the big fish tank. And of course, I set the boxes there to try and eat up some of the void space. I was trying to get everything positioned just right. And here I am playing with a couple of different, okay, this looks about right. How do I want it to do this and everything? And mind you, it's not going to be portrayed in an aquarium. I'm just trying. It turns out I didn't have nearly enough medium because the stuff I wanted to be all the way up at the top wasn't even close. That was an 8-pound bag. But I was able to play with it and realize that, okay, I can make this work, but it's not until you actually get the models and start positioning where you realize exactly what you're going to need. To begin with, a whole lot more medium and a much in your mind you have this idea. When you get there, you realize it just doesn't work out like that. And but it was worth it. But the whole experiment was worth its weight in gold because it gave me a great idea. Now, of course, when I actually get the Godzilla model to do this, you'll probably have the legs or most of the legs or at least the feet removed, so it'll sit a lot lower. And that was the biggest problem, was I couldn't get this up to the level I wanted it. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. The reason I'm having a problem, if you don't have enough medium, how about using a smaller Godzilla and a smaller submarine? So I was like, hey, wait a minute. You're a relatively intelligent guy, Max. Well, relatively is. So I got the little German U-boat and a little Godzilla I had on the shelf. Of course, obviously the granular medium is now much larger in scale, but that's more kind of what I had in mind, was something. And he didn't want to let go of his little airplane that he'd captured, because what's lunch without an appetizer? But anyway, this is a little bit more of what I had in mind. And so this tells me, yeah, this idea will work. I was going to actually take the green screen and doctor up these photos, but I just didn't have enough time. But you get the point. I think you guys will see what I was going with. I think this will work, and I'll probably be using those artists' sands that are very, very extremely fine. And once I get them, get everything in just the right place, then I'll start, and if you use the sand and you're able to just paint it and don't have to actually put a hard cover over it. Now, it'll depend on how it looks, but because I don't want to destroy the models. That's kind of half the idea of this exercise, is to make a diorama without destroying the models. And so that's what we're yeah, I was able to have a little sailors jumping over the side and everything. But anyway, so I thought you guys would set that. And here's the part I didn't expect. The real mess of all of this actually went okay. I was able to recover 98% of the granular medium, so the cat's poopy box won't smell so bad for the next week. But unfortunately, the aquarium that I used, the aquariums that I used had silicone sealing up the inside, and of course this granular medium is designed to clump, cat poop. And as a result, it stuck to that. So it took me about 45 minutes to clean the two aquariums out because it was sticking to all the silicone on the inside. Good move, Max. But it was just an experiment. I consider it a reasonable success, and I'm happy overall with the outcome. But you can actually see in some of these pictures where the litter is clinging to the silicone on the inside seams. There you go, right there. And that was a little hard, a little tricky to get off. You had to get in there with a stiff brush and finally got it to break loose. But anyway, so that's how that went. And I was just real happy that it looks like I might be onto something here, and it'll make a nice little experiment. And maybe at some point, and then of course all I have to do is put some green or blue behind it, and probably green, and I'll be able to chroma key it and make doctor up some photos that'll look good. Bought a motor and pestle to grind down smaller size. Oh, you see, there you go. Okay. I know a lot of people have different stuff they use on, and of course, the stuff you can buy that's made for dioramas. But I know a lot of stuff but they can get a little pricey. And I know a lot of folks have all kinds of everything from baking powder for snow to just all kinds of stuff. And everybody's got their little just, And if you get Shep Payne's books, which I don't actually have, but I have my understanding is that there's just a lot of great ideas in there because the man was the master. Uh, You could use sand, but all sand is not created equal, depending on where you get it. And sometimes it's too the grains are too large. But if you can get something that's really fine, then there's no reason you can't use sand. Uh, Godzilla present. Oh, that actually gets up with the idea I was talking about earlier. Was have some fun with it. I came up with an idea. Now, we already have our group builds kind of set up, but assuming they become a thing and go on, I think something I might do at some point is have a kaiju build with an alternate reality. In other words, not something from a movie, but something completely original, like Godzilla versus the Africa Corps, Ghidorah versus the Revolutionary War Army, something just to put a twist on things, a giant, you could do it in outer space, whatever you wanted. And I was thinking that might be something to do down the road someday. And just because it lets let your little creative fantasy, uh, uh, ideas out. It let your mind flow and do something really, really, really just purely fun. Yeah, baking soda. I think baking soda is pretty fun. One of the problems you run in, pool filter sand is, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, there's all these mediums out there. Don't use pickle sand. Salton. Okay. That's what I was about the next thing to say is whatever you use, do some testing with it because some of this stuff has chemicals in it that might eat the plastic or chew the paint off or something like that. One trick I tried a couple of times that works really well for chipping paint on a model is you paint the silver underneath or whatever, your base color or primer or whatever you want to use. Then wet a little bit of salt and just tap it on with your finger where you want it. Then spray paint the model. When you're done, just brush off the salt. It'll sometimes depending on the paint, you might have to take a toothpick and pick it, but it makes these perfect little chip marks in the paint. Actually, Godzilla versus the pirate ship was the first thing my mind went to, but I didn't have him handy at the time. So the Ghidorah was on the shelf. That's good, but that was actually like, what I'm thinking about is in the Godzilla Chronicles is maybe work in the stories of sea monsters. And of course, Godzilla versus a square rig ship. And we all know how that's going to end. I mean, come on, if the 1953 Japanese army couldn't defeat him, you're certainly not going to do it with an old cannonball. But you never know. A Twilight Zone episode, yeah. Oh, that'd be so much fun. Gatsuki. Yeah. Hey, you have fun with it, it's just the whole idea versus Stretch Armstrong. That's just sick. But I thought you guys would get a little kick out of that. The pirate ship, I finally got started on it seriously today, and I got all the cannons put together and got the first couple of decks there. I'll weather this up before I go much further because I don't want to do it once it's already obviously has the ship around it. But I want to have this done by the end of January from a buddy, and that'll give me an excuse to go over to Tallahassee and visit him. But the kit's gone together pretty well. That's, they call it the Jolly Roger, but it was actually a model of a French, I believe, frigate, 30-gun frigate. And of course, they just repopped it, rebranded it. Not that, of course, pirates use whatever ships they could get, so no doubt that they probably did steal the occasional frigate, but usually I don't think pirate ships, one of those guns is out of alignment. I just caught that. Have to fix that. Thanks to the Tamiya thin paint, this all went very, very quickly. Wasn't nearly as tedious. I'd seen some flash. Oh my God, I don't want to cut the flash off of 30 guns and carriages. But it turned out there was only flash on about 4 of the barrels. And the rest of them, this thing's gone together so far without any real argument. And It's, God, I haven't built a model ship, I mean, a sailing ship in forever. Did ever? Well, Gabriel, he can fight one in your diorama. Um, Godzilla an aircraft carrier. Well, it's kind of the last movie we just saw, isn't it? um, yeah, U-boat versus. Well, yep, you in the land that time forgot. Doug McClure, love that movie. And yeah, I don't think the Marshmallow Man couldn't even handle her 3 nuclear backpacks. I don't think he's going to handle a kaiju very well. Hey, he's a sailor. He's in town. Yeah, the rigging is a part I'm kind of dreading a little bit, but you know, it is what tis what it is. So, I let's see. See, the ideas are already flowing. You guys are all full of them. Oh, since King Kong versus Godzilla versus King Kong stalking sub-stalking the pirate ship. Okay, why not? Yeah, you know, a time portal. Guys, somebody sent me this, and where, let me find it, because uh, there is a, here it is. Okay, let me run this up to the top real quick. I'm going to put a link to the, to this in the comment section. We're done. Now, these are screen grabs I did. This person made this incredible King Kong versus Godzilla underwater, complete with a U-boat, a submarine, and a sinking airplane, and a ship on top burning from out of the movie. But actually made the kaiju out of scratch. Just foil over wire, then putty, then a very accomplished sculptor apparently. Then poured a bucket of resin, put them down in there, used 2 different colors, and just made this incredible diorama. And hey, Kevin. Let's see. I've got the link right here. Let me see if this might be the easiest way to do it. I'm just going to put it, that image. Clickety, 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 can't find my way down there. Here we go. Okay, there's the link. I will put it where you can just this is not hypertext. This is just a picture, a screen grab. But I'll put it in the comment section, which I can't really do while we're, well, you know what? I say that. Hold on just a second. Maybe I can. Let's see how I'm going to open up the very live stream we're doing in YouTube and see if I can leave a comment here. This is live. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I may pull out the perfect crime here. Oh, there you go. There's the link. And it's hypertexted. Ha ha! I'm a genius! Forgot to know what he's doing. So there in the comment section is the link to this video, and they sent me some others. There are a couple of people out there that are have done these various Godzilla and King Kong dioramas. A lot of them using resin, and some of the work in them is just incredible. And let me see if I can zoom in on this here a little bit. Oops. Don't need that since you got that. All right, let me see if I can. You can see it a little bit better there. There's Kong and Z going at it. And given the scale and everything, just the idea that these are made completely from scratch, I mean, that's a talented individual. Chew its monster efforts. Okay. There you go. Yeah, with that, you know. But I thought you guys might enjoy seeing that, and those are some pretty impressive, some really talented people out there, and here I am here I am dealing with a glorified sandbox, but the uh, the idea of dioramas, though, I mean, you know, there's just so much you can do, and you can do a tongue in cheek one. I have that Kong's Thronester, and I have that character, the Wacky's character with the start flags. If I get a Godzilla's go kart, which I probably will at some point, I'll probably do a diorama with him starting them, you know, in a race with, you know, Freddy Flameout, you know, towing a banner overhead or something. So, you know, they can be they can be just as whimsical as you want them to be, or as serious and as dark. And the I was just watching some documentaries about some people who were talking about the various kaiju movies, and they get into the backgrounds of them. And I still have this book that was sent to me, which I've only glanced at, which is give me on the making of the original movie and some of the follow-on movies. And yeah, yes, he would. But the you know, the early ones were really had messages to them, and which is why they were so iconic. And of course, the later ones were just an embarrassment. Not that people don't still love them, but you know, once they realized kids were their main target, they softened the look and everything. But then they started going back to it, and everybody's got their favorite one, and everybody's got the one that is the scariest one. To me, the original was probably the most terrifying, partly because it was the original. And I think Black and White, the Akira Ifukube score. And he did a lot of the other movies, just like Haruo Nakajima did a lot of the other suitmation characters for other movies. But, you know, there's a little cadre of people at Toho that were doing this. You look at some of the knockoff movies that were made in other countries, and they're rarely as good, but you think, you know, these guys had a pretty tight budget, but they're excellent model builders. And the fact that they're excellent model builders really added a lot to it. And one of the, I think the biggest, personally speaking for myself, now of course, when you look at the last couple of movies that came out, the CGI is so good that, yeah, it would be pretty hard to do anything like what they did in the old style. If we finally get into that critical mass where CGI is actually looking better. But you look at the stuff like the, what is it, 98 Godzilla, that's just, oh God, what a train wreck. Not that it wasn't just, well, actually, I got to be honest. Even when I was at the theater, this movie, something about, even when I saw it in the theater, I was like, yeah, something ain't right. Aside from the look of the thing, and but it when you do when these guys had built a lot of these models. I want to go use what's is it Eagles of the Pacific? I think the first Japanese war movie made after the war, once the Americans had moved out and they could kind of starting to get their freedom back. You know, they were no longer an occupied country. A movie about about Yamamoto, and I think it was called Eagle of the Pacific or something. But anyway, yeah, I saw Gorgo. I saw Gorgo at the theater. In fact, I think it was Honest Trailers did a thing on it, and they covered some aspects of that movie I hadn't really thought about before. I mean, to this day, we still call Gorgo the British Godzilla. But the when the original Godzilla was made, the guys at Eagles, they had done so much great work with models. I mean, some of these model ships are 20 odd feet long, just incredible. I mean, this is when they did Tora. You know, I think a couple of those models are still floating around in private collections. One of them was in a museum here in Florida. They're huge. Being the bigger the model, the better it looks. And of course, those same skills were used in the kaiju movies. But something I just recently learned, you can make all the models you want. They can be the best models in the world, but if they don't get the camera work right, it's for naught. And you guys may know that in the original Godzilla movie that not Haruna Nakajima, but the older guy that was the number 2 guy in the suit, tripped and fell down and destroyed their model of the Diet building was made to break apart one time. So they had to try and cobble it together for another shot, and all kinds of things went wrong because a lot of one shot. That's the danger of practical effects. And a couple of times the actors almost drowned. One of them got caught on fire. I mean, it was just all kind. I mean, being a Godzilla suit actor was dangerous. The model makers were always on set, and if you watch Pierce films, they talk about how model makers always have to be on set because crap always gets broken. That happened in the second Aliens movie with Ripley's loader, and just which is why they try to have a bunch of these things if they can, because they can do retakes. But a lot of times, nope, we built one. If you destroy it and don't get it, well, in the second Godzilla movie, and I remember seeing this on my parents' black and white Zenith, and I was like, Gigantus the fire monster. That's Godzilla. I don't get it. What's going on? There's a whole story behind that. But the fight between Anguirus, however you say his name, and Godzilla, they were moving really fast. I was like, well, that's odd. These movies always slowed the film, ran the film like 120 frames a second or something like that, or minute, so that was it 72 frames a second, to slow everything down to like third or half speed. Well, apparently, when they shot that scene, one of the cameras hadn't had the speed on it adjusted. The others did, but it was the one that had the best angle. So Subaraya decided, I think we can use that, and they went ahead and kept it. But that was why they were moving so fast. That was an accident. It was not supposed to be that way. But the problem is that when you smash the models, when you do it in slow motion, or sped up, everything looks cool. But when you do it, it's a small model. I mean, the model's only a meter or so high. So when you hit it, stuff flies off. It just doesn't look quite right. But they kept it in the movie. By the way, it was Godzilla Returns or Revenge of Godzilla, something like that. And it was the Americans who got the distribution rights, who completely re-edited the movie, that gave it the name Gigantus the Fire Monster, because they mistakenly believed that people would not want to see a second Godzilla movie. And in fact, later everybody realized that was a mistake. It's also, I've never actually seen the Japanese version of King Kong versus Godzilla, which apparently is very different than the American version. Same light tone. I mean, they were actually, I didn't realize at the time, but they actually were looking for something comedic. But as I understand it, that was actually, they were going to do Godzilla versus Frankenstein, and then they got the rights to King Kong, and they were allowed to make King Kong movies for like 3 years. So that's, let's make it King Kong. And they switched it last second. But one of the things they kept from the Frankenstein movie was the thing with electricity. You remember that movie? Electricity made Kong stronger. Well, that was actually a carryover from when it was supposed to be King Kong versus Frankenstein, or Godzilla versus Frankenstein. But I was watching this documentary on it. I was like, that's interesting. And they were going to make another King Kong movie, but the King Kong cartoon was on in the U.S. There was objections. So later on, they made King Kong Escapes just before the license ran out, and they were really limited on budget because they said it cost them so much to get the rights to get the rights to the gorilla. And I was like, wow, we could have a lot better models and a lot better movies if it wasn't for all the legal wrangling. You'd probably get Firefly back, or Jerry Anderson and Thunderbirds, or UFO. Apparently, all that crap got tied up in litigation. And which is one reason I think you don't have too many UFO models, is because I'm sure there's a market for them. People still like them. The Bandai kits are outrageously expensive. I was lucky I got one gifted to me when I did from my brother. And they want to make a UFO again, but apparently there's all kinds of legal wrangling and licensing issues. You got companies that are gobbling up the names of World War II aircraft, so that kit model companies have to pay a royalty to call it the B-24 Liberator. That's one reason some of these helicopters that Atlantis makes, if you want to get one, get it now, because they're probably going to, I think they've already discontinued the Cheyenne, and I think the Jolly Green is right behind it, because somebody bought up the rights. Oh, you guys have got to pay me money if you want to keep, and worried that the loss of due to 3D will hurt the creation of new lore. I don't know if it'll hurt it. One of the things about things like 3D printing and kit bashing and stuff like that is people make up their own stories. Like all the stuff you guys were just mentioning earlier, every one of those things you just mentioned with a little massaging could be turned into the next kaiju flick. You're a creative bunch of guys and you've got a lot of cool ideas. And we all enjoy the same kind of fantasy excitement. So, you make a Godzilla movie that takes place against Napoleonic troops. I guarantee you, you'll find two audiences. In fact, you're going to find the kaiju fans, and you're going to find the history buffs that just want to go see what it looks like because this ought to be cool. And they may be counting to see if you got the right kind of flintlocks, but still, it gets them. It gets people excited. It's something new. My wife has been watching this show that comes out of somewhere in Scandinavia about oh gosh, why can I never remember the name of this thing? Beforerunners or something like that, where it's one of the fresher ideas that's come out of media. It came out and you have to read subtitles unless you speak Norwegian. I think it's in Norway, but it's these and it's supposed to be a global phenomenon, the movie, but these weird lightning things will happen in lakes or rivers or in the ocean, and then people from past times will come popping up, and it's such a common phenomenon. It's been going on so long that they've actually started trying to integrate into modern society, and some of them remain clannish and keep to themselves, and others adapt. And but it's a fish out of water, cross cultural kind of thing. But it was really an interesting idea. So kind of like you remember the movie Bright, where you had the elven communities and that kind of stuff. You have these communities that are just like normal people as we think of ourselves today, with a lot of people who still wear their old clothing and their old habits, but they live in modern society and they've come to accept. It's just a weird mix, but it's kind of a cool idea. And like you see, and they've really paid attention to their history, the clothing, the way that people speak and act. At least it's my understanding, according to what I've read from the critics. But it's and this Viking woman becomes a modern day police officer, goes to the academy and everything. And it's I was like, see, there's a fresh idea. People love to see stuff out of history like that. And you throw in fantasy elements like kaiju or something like that. It's like we just started watching the second season of The Witcher, and I think there may be a model of him out there too. It's a fun show. It's a good show. I think it's out of some kind of graphic novel, but Cavill carries character off, and I'm like, this is fun. People need this. These exercises in imagination. And I should be reading some comments here. Frank sometimes stands above them all. Sharp versus Godzilla. The rifles, not muskets. I think even Major Sharp would have the good sense to go, all right, lads, time to go home and drink. Yeah, I have to agree with Burning B-24. A lot of the remakes have been just train wrecks, and I don't think they understand what it is that made the original movie so popular. And of course, we all know that Godzilla was a metaphor for war and nuclear weapons at the height of the Cold War, so it really touched a nerve. And that's probably one of the reasons these zombie things are so popular now, and probably COVID's, well, I don't know, with the big vid, now it might even be actually making them more hitting too close to home. Yeah, copyright's always a huge issue. Backs a lot of this stuff up. Godzilla versus the Bismarck, that'd be a good one. And that diorama that gentleman made that they used a picture of a couple times ago, he was going up against a Japanese battle wagon, and they weren't faring too well. Predator Dark Ages, that's interesting. Ha! Yeah, rip-offs are always a huge problem. Godzilla versus Sharknado. Out of him, that's just flying snacks. Oh, there you go. Yeah, make something up from scratch. And I think I've told you guys that I had Godzilla versus Apollo 11. I don't know what. Run, Neil, run. You guys see that beans commercial with the astronauts. I don't know if they're supposed to be on the moon or another planet, but there's a bunch of astronauts walking around. This monster comes out and starts eating them, and one astronaut hides and looks he's going to get away. At the last second, he farts, and the creature turns around and looks at him. And it's like, beans, good for you. Let's talk modern. What's your favorite? I am becoming a big fan of the deluxe products. That's the white, very creamy stuff. It's very easy to work with, dries really quick, and it's easy to sand. And it's easier to get down into the seams. I know a lot of people have said that the Squadron Putty was the best stuff they've ever used, if you can find it. I don't know what the people who are running Squadron now are planning to go back to putting that stuff into production, but definitely I got to be honest, I've gotten really disappointed in Testors products. They've really stagnated because a lot of new stuff has come out and they're still selling the same stuff they were selling in the 70s. And their paints, well, I was just lamenting them recently. You get down to about a quarter can, the gas gets a little low. Even when they're warmed up, you shake the crap out of them. They're pretty dodgy. So I'm pretty much going to Tamiya acryls all the way for the most part. I'd like to find some Vallejo because I've heard, or Floqual. I've heard good things about Vallejo and Floqual, but the putty, I haven't found anything better in deluxe, but I've never used the Squadron putty. After that would be the Tamiya putty. I have the green and the white, and I think the green, personally, I like it better. So that would be deluxe. I'd say deluxe. Haven't used the Squadron, but I heard it's great, and then the Tamiya green, then Tamiya white. And I'd probably use Bondo before I go back to using the tester stuff. Automotive glazing putty. I have heard that people have used something like that before. Um, Actually, everybody says Godzilla versus a Sea Few. No one stands up to Admiral Nelson. Um, in fact, there was a really clever comment. Somebody was like, "Calling Admiral Nelson, we need your help." The have all Vallejo, the airs, and the model paints. Yeah, I've heard great things about Vallejo. I haven't used them. The local hobby shop just carries to me. If I want to get Vallejo, I'm going to have to order them online. Now, are those Vallejo acrylics or enamels? Because I'm or lacquers, because enamels I'm starting to enamels they really put on a nice coat, but you pretty much have to set the thing aside for about 3 days to let it thoroughly gas out before you can really do anything with them. So it just slows the process so much. Um, Sprue goo, yeah. Uh, yeah, I have used the gray stuff, and it was certainly better than testers. Um, and Hey, Ian, welcome aboard. Really? You see, I haven't had the best luck with testers. When the testers is fresh and new, comes out still real liquidy, not so bad, but just after it's stored a little while, where I haven't had that problem with the deluxe product stuff. I mean, the stuff that's in the tube will dry up. You have to clean the tube out once you do the stuff inside, still fresh. Come in dropper bottles. I'm gonna have to get some Vallejo and check it out for myself because everybody raves about them, and I've heard really good things about Floqual. But are they still making Floqual? I don't know if that was mainly for airbrush or. Yeah. I'm actually becoming a fan of cutting a strip of sprue for big gaps, just because if you've got a gap that big, you might as well put some real plastic in there. I did that on the DC3 that I just built, and it worked pretty well. If you got a nice, if you can cut it down flush, but and you're dealing with something that one of the problems with any putty is when you dry, you have this basically very light ceramic in there. So if you're sanding away or something, sometimes chunks of it will come out or something. When you have a piece of plastic in there, you're grinding on plastic, and it behaves like plastic. So it's just, um, If you can get a piece of plastic to fill a gap, I'm thrilled with it. Yeah, I'd heard that flow cool had been gone for a while. So now the Sprue goo, I've heard of this stuff. I have not used it. Um, the Vallejo air straight to, yeah, and that's one of the things I like about using the metallizers is that the metallizers you don't thin them. Man, they spray nice too, easy to clean up. Um, Old State testers, yeah, yeah, I do love that old smell. Also, believe it or not, I like the smell of zinc chromate because my dad was a mechanic back when they were A&E mechanics, airframe and engine, because there were only piston engines when he got his. Jets were a new thing. Oh, I think we've all seen the big Bambi versus Godzilla. Um, well, what's your favorite formula for sprue goo for making it up? And using sprue goo as a filler. Going to the library. The Yeah, everybody comes up with their own little tricks. When I was a kid, I would try to use glue to fill the big gaps. I'll just put a big bead of glue on there, wipe it down. That'll harden in place, and that'll fix everything. And yeah, we all know how that works. Look, my wings are made of rubber. Me and graphene got. It smells like paste. um, I've heard good things about guns lacquers. Lacquers, I don't know the difference in a lacquer and enamel, but I know that people seem to prefer lacquers and they seem to flow better. Um, well, MK is not bad, just to be careful with it. Yeah, Tester's dope does smell like modeling. I built that Sterling triplane. It had the wings all doped up and everything, and I just remember looking at it, just going, smells like, like you said, modeling. It was just, yeah. One thing, I need to get some thick CA glue because all I have right now is the thin stuff, which is great for getting into tiny areas. But if you put too much on, it crap won't dry. It takes forever to dry, and it's supposed to be the fast drying stuff, and it won't dry until you try to move the thing. Then it'll stick to your finger or something. Then it'll dry real hard, real fast. Hey, David, glad you could make it. The One of the things I have to be careful. I don't take paint with me when I do the road builds. If I did, I would take acrylics because I'd be cleaning them up in a hotel room. But I figure that's just a little too much risk of a mess. Although I would like to take them with me. I thought about building an actual kit carrier with paints and everything in it. I don't think TSA would give me a hard time about that. Um, I've heard good things about Mr. Color. As I recall, it's pretty expensive though. By the way, speaking of which, I was asked a question today, I think, or yesterday, by somebody, and it was somebody overseas. They saw the Beatties T-shirt that Matthew had sent me, and he's of course trying to sell these, so I put the link on that video. But I had never heard of Beatties before, but I assumed they were primarily a kit model store. And they asked, were there any just straight up kit model stores in the U.S. chains? The only one I could think of was a Squadron shop. Every other place that sold models, even that had great selections, that was just part of the business. Even Hurricane Hobbies, it's about a quarter of the business. They also have rocketry and RCs and a ton of cars, which is, and he said that models make up, it's about 20-25% of the business. So they're well stocked. But the as far as stores that are just straight up strictly um, kit model stores, nah. Other than the Squadron shop, which I assume they closed all of those since Squadron went under. Other people have got it. I'm not hearing a lot of great things from the new Squadron shop, but I'm assuming it's new people trying to get up on their feet and get everything up and running. But to my knowledge, that's the only one in the U.S. And I don't know if Beatty's was just in the U.K. or if they were in Canada or other places. But apparently a lot of people are familiar with it because we got a lot of feedback on it. And be honest with you, I'm halfway surprised Tamiya hasn't started doing something like that in the U.S. But, because there is a Tamiya store in Japan. Of course, it's by the factory. And there's some people who've done videos, gone and shot videos. And I mean, if you wanted anything Tamiya, it's wall to wall, everything they make. But then, of course, it's literally the factory is right there. But I don't think Hasegawa or Aoshima or any of the others do anything like that. But, oh well. I'm just catching a look at the comments here. Ugh, geez, 45 mile an hour winds. Burr. In Florida, there was somebody put out a meme from that song. It was the night before Christmas, and all through the house, the AC was running because we live in the South. Scale models in New Hampshire. I have to check out the Sprue. There are a lot of great ways. The thing about filling seams, as we all know, is it's easy to fill the seam. It's getting to file down smooth when you're done. An invisible seam has always been... We all have that thing. For some people, it's masking canopies, which is not one of my strong suits. But for me, I would say filing away seams, getting it really flush is something that's just that thing that just always seems to drive me a little bonkers. And I'm never quite happy. But I'm also building a lot of older kits that don't have great fits, and you're shaving down to get the... Because you always want... It's not actually a seam. It's that the parts have a lip on them. And that's what's hard to get rid of. Because you got to shave a lot of plastic down. And you got to do it without shaving down both sides. And usually I find you have to use an X-Acto knife or a file for something like that to get them flush. Now, Beatties are UK based. Were they strictly across the UK, or were they in Europe also? I've been kind of delaying. I mean, I've got so much going on now, just having time, because I have the 3 Faller and a couple other companies that I've been getting information on. Keelcraft and gosh, brain fart. There's another one that because I want to get some more history videos out. I realize I'm getting a little delinquent on that. I'd love to go to a Japanese hobby show. They're looking at, oh God, the Japanese are fanatical model builders, and they are really good at it. I would say some of the best models I've ever seen probably came out of Asia, the Philippines, Japan, and we have some, I'd say beyond China, but then I see beautiful kits coming out from everywhere. Yeah, I mentioned the Czech Republic have stories. There are apparently some molds that, and I think they were old frog molds that changed hands several times and ended up in a factory that wound up getting mortared somewhere in the former Eastern Bloc. And apparently it's an area that's under contention today. And folks are like, hey, if you want to dodge sniper fire, you can go have yourself some free molds. The internet has really changed everything, and before we blame it for killing the local hobby shop, and it has had an impact, and it did do that because Hobby World, there were at one point I know there were 2 Hobby Worlds here in Jacksonville, and I remember the one on 103rd Street closed, and they just recently closed the one in Blanding. That's where I got the glass case that's in the TARDIS, and he told me point blank that the internet was killing him. So JetBlue flights to Japan. Yeah, I'll be 20 years retired before that happens. But yeah. But what the heck was I just talking about? But the internet also has put a lot of stuff at your fingertips that you wouldn't have had otherwise, because it's Newtonian physics. Reaction equal opposite reaction. it makes it tough for stores to compete with the internet, but at the same time, as a consumer, of course, you got to pay shipping, which probably eliminates in most any discount, but you can find stuff. Because no hobby shop can afford to keep a completely full inventory of everything, so that's one of the things that's probably like Hurricane Hobbies has some polar lights. Have a lot of Atlanta. They have almost everything Atlantis makes. And but they have a lot of round two stuff. But there are a couple of companies, they don't have anything at all, and it's not the store, it's their distributor doesn't carry it. So distribution is a big issue. And Glencoe, they don't have any Glencoe kits, and I don't know who Nick does the stuff through, but apparently there's I've only found Glencoe kits at a couple of places. I found over there at Steve Iverson when he came down to Modelpalooza. I got to meet him. Great guy. I had done it. He helped me with the one on Polar Lights, and on the video on Polar Lights, and he was the only one I saw that had any Glencoe kits actually in stock. And first I wanted to grab, and I was like, you know what? I may never find them. I mean, that's why the only other place was the Red Caboose. He had one Glencoe kit, and that was that Vanguard that I built. And I don't know what's going on over there. Of course, Nick told me about the numbers, and it's really disappointing. They used to run 40,000, now they're running 4,000. Like, oh God. Of course, we all know that less people are building models than used to, but also I think it's because there's more model companies than there used to be. We talk about the ones that have gone out of business, but for every one we've lost, how many have been started? And between new techniques for making molds and everything, I have heard, and I'm not gonna, that you can get a mold. It used to be about roughly $40,000 to get let's say a 30-part 1/48 scale model airplane would be about $40,000 to get the molds made. It was what I had been, but now apparently folks are claiming with new technology that you can cut them for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. I can't back that up. I just know that's what somebody told me. Said he had a guy. But there are more people getting in the business companies I've never heard of. People ask, have you heard of this company? Nope. You go up to scale makes got nothing on them. And so in 3D printing makes it easier, I would imagine, to make the blanks to use to pantograph to make the molds. Just reading some of the comments here real quick. I do like the older kits. There's a charm to them, almost an innocence, and when I saw that, when I found that video on Keelcraft, I didn't appreciate how much it went into making balsa wood kits. I mean, I've opened mine. I just there's boxes of balsa with stuff printed on, but I didn't appreciate just how much work goes into cutting those things and everything. It's a lot of work. It's probably, how can I put this? It's easier to set up to build balsa kits, but a balsa kit itself is much more tedious to produce. With styrene, it's inject it, pull it out, drop it in the box, and off it goes. It's getting the setup made, the molds and everything. With balsa is kind of the opposite. All you need is basically the drawings, and the thing can cut the parts. But getting the right kind of balsa, getting cut to thickness, now the lasers make it a lot easier. But everything that goes into a balsa kit is actually more labor intensive to produce. And although with some of the modern equipment they're using now, I think that's gone down a lot. Because if you get one of these laser cut balsa kits, they're pretty impressive. Hey, Roy. Oh, God. Fujimi, yeah. It's funny. Fujimi is one of those kit model companies that has an excellent reputation, although some people claim that some of their car models are a little over-detailed, full of little fiddly parts that drive. But I'm like, well, if you're building a Fujimi kit, you're probably an advanced modeler. That's like building one from Eagle Moss or somebody. Well, maybe I'm giving a little too much credit there, but they're not one of the names that pops in when you think about model companies. Tamiya, Hasegawa, the round two stuff. But Fujimi's always been there, and somehow they never seem to be center stage. But the people who love them absolutely love them. Have I built one of their kits? I don't know. Do you remember Not to be confused with the Fuji company, which was short-lived and not a great, company. But yeah, but I think you're right. From what little I understand about Fujimi, they are more aimed at the Asian market, which is a blow-up market. I mean, model building never lost steam in Japan. Even if everybody in America quit building models, all these companies would still be in business because they're in Asia. They still have a huge market. And want to be sure to Hub Hobby Shop on Airline Highway. Okay, I can remember that one. I used to do New Orleans overnights, Nolans overnights. So if I do, I'll check it out. Is Roy taking off? Roy, thanks for joining us. Hope you have a good evening and happy holidays. Oh, before I forget, let me check something real quick. Okay, I want to take a look at my schedule. I got you guys up here. Make sure I don't make a mistake. Time for the eyeglasses switch. I'm getting my new eyes in a couple of weeks. Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to do a live stream on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. I'll be at work. So the next live stream after this one will probably be January 15th. Not that my wife wouldn't let me do one on Christmas Day or anything like that. She, sure, if you want to. I just figure everybody's going to have things going on. Well, if you guys want to do one Christmas Day, we'll see, but I would figure you got more important things to do. Yeah, the laser cut on balsa is excellent. By the way, I was about just short of being halfway through that book, Far Side of the Moon, by Lisa Jorgensen. And I was surprised that book, model building, has a relatively good representation because it's about Frank Borman and his wife Susan. And Frank, I knew had built models as a kid. What I didn't realize was that his wife Susan wound up building models with him, more just to kind of do things together. And apparently she was a better model builder than Frank was. I think they were mostly balsa kits because they were talking about going out and flying them. And apparently, for whatever reason, attention to detail, delicate lady fingers, whatever, she made her models very well balanced, and they always came back, whereas Frank's often were one flight and crash. And their kids built models, and it was kind of a family thing there. And she'd build models with her sons and stuff, and I think that is so awesome. Mom building a model. And that was, I have several places in the book they talk about building models as something to help them keep their sanity. I wonder if Edward gives factory tours. I don't know. I doubt it, but maybe. Very Merry Christmas to you too, Sligo. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good stuff about Fujimi's airplanes and their cars. The complaint about their cars, when they say they have a lot of fiddly parts, I don't take that as a bad thing. To me, that just means they're highly detailed. One thing, oops. Let's live stream on Christmas. If I can do a live stream on Christmas, if I don't have anything going on, then I'll put something out in the day, and it might not be a bad idea. Everybody can brag about what they got for Christmas. I'll tell you what, we'll make a Christmas live stream, same time, 7:00, 2400 Zulu. We'll make that a maybe, 50-50, depending on. But if I'm going to do it, I'll try to put something out real quick to let you know. So. If I know I'll be home, so if I'm free and there's nothing going on, I don't have any commitments, then I'll go ahead and do it on Christmas Day. I mean, why not? I mean, I figure Christmas evening everything's kind of wrapped up, right? You had the big meal and everybody's gotten over their food coma, and I'm sure you guys are going to have some. In fact, I'll go one further. If you want, on Christmas Day, if you got model stuff for gifts, models or tools or whatever. Just maxismodelsyahoo.com. Shoot me a quick picture of your swag that you got for Christmas, and we'll share it. And anything I get, I'll share. And oh boy, everybody talking about heart valve replacements makes really making me want to stick to my diet. The Mustang is a '07, and oh, let's see. Yes, yeah. Timmy's is good. I don't know when I'll get back to Buffalo to refill. I should have bought more. A weird thing happened to me. I don't know what it was. Somebody asked me a question when I was at the Buffalo airport that made me wonder. Well, this got nothing to do with the model, but they were like, "Never mind, forget I said anything. We'll just go on to other stuff." Oh man, I used to love models of the thing I wanted in Christmas more than anything else. I can remember. Okay, just put yes or Y if you ever did this when you were a kid. You saw a square package with your name on it for Christmas, and you would shake it to make sure it had the sound of styrene rattling around inside. Cause man, I did that all the time. Squishy, squishy, no sound. Socks. Ooh, model. Boxes this big. 1/48 scale. Yeah, well, it'll be a short one. If we do it on Christmas, it'll be, we'll plan on a short one on Christmas if I'm available. So, well, I enjoy it. Hey, John, you made it. Well, I hope you had a good dinner. Hope everybody's doing well. Um, yeah, everybody used to shake the box to see if there was a ball. Everybody did that. uh, no. Oh my gosh. We have an infidel amongst us. um, so, oh man, I can still remember one Christmas. I got the three models I wanted, and I don't know what made me want them. And one of them was sent to me by you guys. That was the Revell 1/72 scale B24 with the Jack Linwood artwork. That was one. And the reason I wanted these models was the artwork, and I think it was all Linwood artwork. The other was the, I believe, 1/48 scale Mosquito and the 1/48 scale P61 Black Widow, which was the monogram. So it was two monograms and a Revell, and I got all three, and I was just tickled pink. Um, and that to me, it was just the happiest Christmas. In fact, the other thing I got into sort of photography. You guys remember the Polaroid SX70 camera when it came out? Oh, I wanted one so bad, and I got the low cost black and brown model, not the one with the shiny chrome, but I didn't care. And one of the first photographs I took was of two models. I think my younger brother, I think actually built this, a P6E Hawk and I think an F4B. And I found this a while back, and this is from an SX70. And I keep that on my desk. And it was actually a surprisingly good photograph. I mean, I can't believe it's still in this good a shape. And this was ones, we'd finally gotten into painting our models. And no models for Christmas. Oh my gosh, that's not right. You buy yourself, Tony, I want you to buy yourself something nice. You all know what movies that's from, Clark. I want you to buy yourself something nice. My dad was a pilot, was a private pilot, and he had a multi-engine rating, and he was an A&E mechanic, and he loved aviation. So he was more than happy to buy us model airplanes because he encouraged our flying. And I'm sure that's one reason I built more planes than cars. And I was convinced that model airplanes dominated the market. I was shocked to learn that actually model cars dominate the market. And I've never built so many cars as I have since I started this channel, because you guys influence me way more than I influence you. Believe me, you're the influencers. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm finding building cars to be just because I didn't do it before. It's still kind of new and fresh. I'm still learning, and I really enjoy it. And one of the nicest things about cars, as I'm learning, is they don't eat up as much space on the shelf as an airplane because they don't have those long wings, so I can get a lot of them on one shelf. And in fact, in this photo on the upper left, that 442 and that Fleetwood, those are the first two that I built that actually didn't have any serious blemishes on them. Really happy with them. And then the Monkeys Mobile, despite the faux pas, which is totally self-inflicted. But I've got that one, and I love that model. And I'm really enjoying. And I've got those two Lamborghinis, even though they're not elaborate kits. They're almost toys. But I'm going to paint them and probably get the electrics in them working. Then I'm going to send them off to John up in Canada and have him probably turn them into slot cars or something, or whatever he wants to do with them. But I just because Max's models are going international here, and I see an epic race between them. They're both Lambos. Can the Jota beat the Miura? And is it Yoda or Jota? Jota, Lamborghini. I don't know how. I know in Spanish it would be Yoda, but Jota. But I don't know about Italian. Those kits are not terribly detailed. The interior on them, it's almost like a Palmer kit on the inside, but it's still cool, And you sit there. Also, the little remote just going back and forth, and it makes you giggle, and it's just like when you're doing a hobby and it makes you just giggle for no good reason, you got a good hobby, and or if it relaxes you. And that's the important thing. There's so many crossovers out of this hobby. I mean, model cars to slot cars, model cars or model building to flying model RCs and other things. It's just, there are so many ways you can go with this. I think the thing that styrene models have going for them is that you can just branch off your imagination into almost any subject matter. There are very few things that have not that you can't make out of styrene. I mean, spaceships, sci-fi, kaiju, cars, planes, trucks, tanks. Actual trains, and it's just, and when you're working on them, you're there, and you can be James Bond or Mario Andretti or Chuck Yeager. And I don't know. To me, it gives me a connection with things I'll never get to do. And I feel fortunate that there is no J in Italian. That makes the J a hard G. GH make a hard G. What about Jota? That's how it's spelled. So how should I phonetically be pronouncing that? That's kind of my question. Is it Gota or Jota or Yota or Hota? I wonder if that name means anything or it's just a name. All human endeavor gives them all something. Yeah, it really does. How many movies have we seen when somebody's trying to explain something, they've got a model of it on the desk? Ravel Vigilante, I remember that kit. Another great Lindbergh artwork on the box art. Giota. Okay, so it's Giota. Am I saying that right? Giota? Well, that's good to know. It's a beautiful looking car. Of course, I figure if I actually saw one for real and got inside it, I'd probably eat up both. I probably couldn't fit, but yeah, that was pretty much my story. I hadn't built many cars. Now that I have, I'm really starting to enjoy it. And okay, Giotto, good. Now I know how to say it correctly. And although I understand, I think it was John was telling me about this, that the Miura is actually in real cars. The Miura is the Holy Grail Lamborghini. I think that somebody found one. I got $3.5 million for it or something. I'm like, woo! Yeah, when they first came out, nobody wanted. Isn't that the way? You can't manufacture a collectible. The thing has to be a collectible because it earned a certain reputation over time, the lack of availability. Cars dominate only the U.S., not in Europe or Asia. And it doesn't actually surprise me. You think about it, the U.S. is kind of the car country. I mean, Henry Ford, the works, the big three. So and we're such a big country, everybody you have to pretty much have a car to get around here. And so the American love affair with the car, not the least bit surprising. You got the whole, the whole Detroit car scene. You got the California hot rod scene. You got all that stuff. And I don't know if we don't attach a little more romance to certain things, but you got the Bonneville Salt Flats crowd, and you've got the California hot riders, and even if it's more in the imagination than reality, because every place I've gone, there have been hot rod communities that have done fantastic work, but California kind of got between the surfers and everything else, they kind of got the reputation for being the end place to be for, hot rodding and innovation. I don't know if that's fair or not. And now we're going back to the 50s and 60s, of course. I agree, John, Ashley. The cars, I'm sorry, Sluga, modeling is a history lesson. Absolutely. And I learned a lot of what I learned just by reading the stuff on the side of the boxes. The M4 Sherman tank was built by blah, 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 blah. Oh, really? Was anyone disappointed when they got a model car as a gift? Okay, I'm going to remember when I was a kid, I was in the planes and tanks, so I'm going to say, yeah, I got one or two cars, and it's not that I didn't like them, but I was really looking for a tank or a plane. So I'll say yeah to that, but not the case anymore. Hey, I used to hate coleslaw, now it's my favorite side. We change with age. Did any of you guys ever see the Mitchell and Webb, the couple of British comedians? They had a show, I think it was called was it Mitchell and Webb Look, when they did the thing about the moon landing conspiracy, and they're talking about, well, first we've got to build a big rocket and all this other stuff, and he goes, well, build a big rocket, and then, well, the people are going to watch it take off, so we got to, well, if we're going to build a big rocket and actually make it take off, it might be easier just to go to the moon. I mean, after all, once you build the big rocket, after that it's pretty much just catering. I had to have the only one I got a Palmer kit. Yeah. Yeah, Palmer kit's the one kit you never have any guilt about sticking a firecracker in. Building cars is difficult, in my opinion. Well, yeah, there are some difficulties in them, especially, to me, the tricky part on cars is the suspensions on some of them, like those two Camaros I did for the Knight Rider. They actually had what looked like factory accurate suspensions in them. There were a lot of small parts to get in there. And if you didn't get them in, if you didn't get all of them in, the car was going to squat. I mean, you had to have, like, yeah, this is getting, and it was black on black plastic on top of that. So when you wire up the engines, yeah, that gets, little tweezers doing surgery, going here around the oil filter. Who designed this car? He should be shot. To me, the easiest thing to build, I would say, is probably armor. The easiest, if you look at the upper left on my Happy Holidays card, next to the Enterprise, you'll see that little Atlantis M26 Pershing. That has got to be the easiest kit. Now, you've got a lot of road wheels to build and everything, but that has got to be the easiest tank I ever built. Everything fell into place. It didn't get me in there. I think I did break maybe one wheel. I had to hard glue it in place. And, of course, I got the tracks that are made out of unobtainium, because no matter what you use, the tracks will not glue and stay glued together. So, I didn't use staple on those, but I forget what I did. I think I actually just glued the tracks to the wheels, so I'd screw it. Yeah, but that left me enough room for a little track sag. But, I mean, outside of that, that is the easiest kit I have built in a long time. And it's a good-looking kit. I really recommend that as that Atlantis M26 Persian as a beginner's armor kit. It's a great way to start. And they're easy to paint because usually most of them are just olive drab or beige. And now some of them do have, like there's some of the German tanks and the Japanese tanks do have some more complex paint schemes on them. But the nice thing is if you make a mistake, you just scratch it off and paint over it. It's a tank. They got scratches, dents, and bullet holes all over them. And any real boo-boo just write it off as battle damage. Cars are tricky to build because if you're trying to make like a really nice car, because any blemish will show. And that's what makes airliners hard to make. When you build a model airliner, they often have long, very long, slender decals on them. They have the cheat lines and everything. Getting that all just right and getting all the blemishes, because the airliner's got to be shiny and new looking. Military airplane, you can always rough it up a little bit. You just write it off as, weathering. But and believe me, I've got enough pictures from the walk-arounds to show that airliners get weathered too. But generally speaking, airliner models, you want to make them look nice. And so they can be tricky. Some of the most cantankerous stuff to build can be some of the spacecraft, the real space stuff with all of the trusses and everything on them. That can test your patience. I'll let you know with the ships after I get done with. Ships are really tricky because when you scale it down, but they've got so many bits and bobs on them. And somebody who knows their ships, if you guys say, screw it, I'm just going to leave that off. Somebody who knows their ships, that's the first thing their eye will go to is the part you left off because it was too difficult. And I mean, we're talking tiny little brass parts. But then you tour the actual ship and you see the thing in real life and realize, hey, man, this thing's 2 feet long and made of steel. It's not a tiny brass. It actually is kind of an important thing. Yep, armor mistakes automatically become battle damage. Or enlisted man damage, because in peacetime we managed to tear them up pretty good too. Friend insists we learn to read so we can... The Bride of Frankenstein, yeah. Models tell stories, especially dioramas, but they do. Everybody handled it to me again. Well, I know I've said this before, but I'll just, for the sake of discussion, I'll harp on it again. The Airfix magazine was talking about how in England they're getting these young kids to start building, these surgeons to start building models because they don't have the dexterity that surgeons need. So it's a way of building. And these are, adults and it's a great way to build their dexterity. There's a plane you have to have seen down the fuselage. Well, it's not visible. They painted over it. Oh, the ornithopter, yeah. Yeah. The man could build a radio from coconuts and couldn't fix a leaky boat. Oh, well, the Gimli glider was a 767, but by the way, my understanding is Atlantis is running into a problem on the 7.2. You may, if you want one, if you find one, you might want to grab it if you want a 7.2. I'm pretty sure they're going to be taking it out of the Eastern Airline colors and using some new artwork. Again, licensing issues gets real ugly between them and Revell and stuff. It just gets ridiculous. Everybody wants to take you money. If you want to use that, you got to pay. We did pay. No, not for the artwork. And they're like, they're not going to go to court and fight it. There's not enough money there to be worth the lawsuit would cost. Fighting it would cost more. And a C&D, a cease and desist, is cheap. Yeah, today's military aircraft are, they're fairly, most military aircraft are. I mean, they're workhorses. I need some glue over here, stat. I'm holding the fuselage together, quick. Yeah. Oh, by the way, good news. I got an email from Tom Daniel. He's about to celebrate. I think he just celebrated his 85th birthday. I'd heard he'd had a little bit of a health scare, but apparently he's still going strong. And so, a happy 81st, TD. Orthodontists are killers. Lockhart preventing wires are stock in trade. Try that with a right field kit. So surgeons, if they're going to do orthopedics, they have to learn to be able to ship on a model. I'm shipping a bottle. uh, um, yeah, and we've been losing. You know, guys, we lost. I know all you car guys are aware we lost Al Unser Jr. recently, and apparently the same time we lost Mike Nesmith. And you know, the one thing I want to know is there's the Monkeys Mobile model is of course getting repopped. And there's and then you got the Moon Eyes Dragster, which Atlantis has put out, and it's right there on the Deezerland poster. I just left that up as a reminder. You know, I figure you guys don't need to see me in large scale, so I just put anything up here to you know, entertain your eyes, give you something to look at. But was Al Unser Senior? Senior. I'm sorry, Al Unser Senior passed away. Okay. That's what I get for trying to read with the wrong glasses again. But the complete. Oh yeah, there have been several reproductions of the Monkeys Mobile. Now, what I'm wondering is, like, you got to cut the trunk out and everything. I mean, that's a lot of work. But apparently, Jeffries knocked this thing in, knocked them out in a month. And I'm just, there's a magazine I caught somebody was selling on eBay or something, or I think it was an old one, but there was actually an article about him building the car, and it showed him bending the metal and everything. And I'm just thinking how hard it must be to do something like that, kind of more or less freehand, and get everything perfect and symmetrical like he did. I can't even do that with a model. I can't do it at 1/25th scale. I can't imagine somebody doing it at full scale, you know, making the nose piece and the modified front end and the rear, and then cutting out the trunk and putting the back seat in there. And I don't know how he sealed up the trunk. I guess he welded it shut, but ground it down. But you know, that guy could do things with metal that I can't do with plastic. Well, that's what they call it, talent for a pyro sailing ship to build. You know, it's funny, William, I'm not sure, but I think the last model sailing ship I built was the little pyro kit when I was a kid. I don't recall building. Well, there was that little sailing ship that was sent to me that I still have in the Tarbis, but I didn't really rig that. I just ran a couple of pieces of Easy Line over it. I actually built one of those, and what kind of crap? I mean, we lost Gurney, Unser, B. Unser, and Al Unser. Yeah. But I remember it had the white ratlins that were made of plastic that you glued on, the little, you know, triangular lines that cut down the side of the mast. And when I was done, I vividly remember it gluing it to my thumb. It got stuck. And when I pulled my thumb off, there was this brown residue from, I guess, my finger in the glue. And I remember that thing just looked like absolute. I was so ticked off at myself. I was probably 10 years old, and even I knew I'd done a sloppy job because I'd gotten in a hurry. I was running out of glue. And the only saving grace was I didn't even take it home. I think I put it on the shelf in my dad's store. The good thing was it was only about that big, and from 4 or 5 feet away, you couldn't see the blemishes. And I was like, ugh, I don't want anybody to ever get close to that. I'll put it here where no one can reach it. Bob Bondurant, yep. But there's definitely the usual turmoil. I'm hoping the guys at Atlantis will, I just got the email today. They announced a few more kits and everything. So I would like to see the Keeler Customs come out, but so we'll see what happens there. I just got an email from Jim Keeler today. I think he had had a household mishap and hurt himself, but he's recovering, but he's having a rough holiday. So I wished him well and quick recovery. The Blue Nose. I've never built that one. I've seen that kit. I've never built it. Apparently that must have been a popular ship, but I don't know why. Somehow, for some reason, the sailing vessels like that, I don't know. It never really did anything for me. I always liked the square riggers, you know. But even though the Blue Nose could run rings around any of those ships. It's kind of like tanks. I always preferred World War II tanks to modern tanks. I mean, I like modern tanks, but I always preferred the World War II tanks. And I hate to say this because it sounds so silly, but it's like they had a character. I mean, German tanks look German. They're boxy and big, and American tanks, they all had that Sherman-esque with the vertical volute suspension system. They all had that, American look. There was no British look. I don't think any two British tanks looked anything alike. You look at a Churchill and a Crusader and a Matilda, and you're like, wow, those came from different design teams. One of my favorite kit model tanks, I built that when I was a kid. I built that Matilda too from Tamiya. That is one of the finest tank models I ever built, just as a kit. And I think the Matilda was just a good-looking tank. I finally got to see a Matilda in person when I went to the American Heritage Museum. I'd never seen the Rhino up close in person before. And, boy, that is one solid little tank. They didn't call it the Rhino for nothing. But that tank sat on my shelf for years. And, of course, I guess probably any Tamiya tank's probably a good build. Just catching up on the can model airplane companies put different airline decals on kit? The model, yeah, in fact, some of them I think did. You could at one point you could get the SST and Pan Am markings, and Pan Am, although they were going to, they never actually got the SST. So yeah, it depends. A lot of the stuff is in the public domain, but a lot of times these airline logos are actually still owned by somebody, and you can't use it without their permission. I doubt any of you guys are familiar with a short, well, I don't know how short-lived it was, but it was a small airline. I think it was called Southeast. And I remember seeing them, and they flew DC-9s and MD-80s. And they had, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 airplanes. And actually some of the people I worked with flew with them. And apparently they were, not the cat's meow to fly for. But anyway, they had the National Airlines Sun logo. And they actually paid a lot of money to be able to use that logo. And I don't know why. They didn't just come up with their own. But anyway, so things like the Eastern Airlines logo and the National Airline and all these airline logos that people still have, there's somebody out there that owns the rights to most of them, TWA, Pan Am. A lot of times when an airline merges, the assuming airline will buy all the intellectual property rights and everything so that people can't use the logo without their consent. It's just another avenue of money, income. So I would say no, they can't do it without permission. British tanks are made from spare parts. Are you guys familiar with something called the Bob Simple tank? Which was, I don't think anyone's ever made a model of it, and I can't blame them if they didn't. But was it Australia? They were trying to come up with some sort of, in case the Japanese invaded, they need some sort of interim tank, something they could make domestically. And they more or less armor plated a bulldozer. It was a complete disaster. But I don't think anybody ever made a model of it. Yeah. But all I'm getting at is that when you look at the British tanks, there's not the kind of continuity between them. Italian tanks have a look, Japanese tanks have a look, American tanks have a look, German tanks very much have a look, and Russian tanks absolutely had a look. They looked Russian. I mean, you looked one. You don't have to tell me that's got to be Russian. But the British tanks were all over the place, from the Vickers tank up to the Centurion. Now, after that, by the end of the war, when they kind of was at Centurion, now they kind of got a uniform look. And the more I watch the Tank Museum, the more I start to see the what would become the Centurion and the turrets and everything. They started putting those really big guns on them. But Fletcher over there, was it David Fletcher? I tell you what, anytime I see a video with him, I've got to watch it. He is such an easy guy to listen to, so informative and just very entertaining. And he's not even trying. He's just an incredibly entertaining person to listen to. Britain's most famous mustache. Yeah, corrugated tank, yeah. Let's see. It was New Zealand. It was in New Zealand. Okay, the Bren Gun Porcupine. Hey, props for trying though. The cheat. Hopefully, I would love. Okay, you guys write this down. Of all the YouTube celebrities out there, who would you like to meet? Because I'd love to meet Ian from Forgotten Weapons. I'd love to meet Nick from the Chieftain's Hatch. I'd love a chance to have say hi to Dave Fletcher. And I'd like to meet Lance Geiger, the history guy, Paul Schlito, the curious droid, and Bill Whittle over at the Right Angle and PJTV, and a few others that are out there that I just think do really good work. Well, get with it, Matt. Buy a model, buy some glue, and start gluing. The jet paint inserts. Yep, they were. Actually, a lot of them have been classified as tankettes, the Japanese and Italian stuff. And but the Italian ones were fast. Yeah, I was just talking about the Shep Payne books earlier. The guy was a master, and he was doing all this before they had LEDs and stuff that you could stick in there. And on just those inserts, you'd have to send me some information on them because I really don't have anything on the Shep Payne inserts. I do remember. Oh God, and I can. Okay, I always photoscope, the ones where they put the slide in there and you could look in. There'd be a picture of the inside of a sub or inside of a tank, and I think it was photoscope. I think it was Aurora did that. I always remember the idea, but I always forget who did it. But I think I remember the name. I think it was photoscope. But the Shep Paint inserts or something else. I'd have to get some information. But if I get enough information, I can do a video on it. Drachnafel, yeah, he does. I watch a lot of his stuff. And also Greg's Autos and Aircraft and Autos. And I've started watching, is it Nash? He does at least 6-7 minute videos on some obscure aircraft. Yeah, Mark Felton and Lance Geiger. Yep. Yeah, I knew you guys would know who I'm talking about. Most the Mighty Jingles. Oh my. Oh man, some of those. Did you guys see the latest one? If Fury was a German movie. Apparently he's got some German friends because that sounds like native German speakers on the Max Contour. Oh my God. Angles with Jingles. And yeah, the Bovingtons that would be. Well, I'd love to chat with Ian. I like it when he and Nick get together because there's enough crossover, but they're both specialists in their field. And taking off, Mark. Take care, man. Thanks for making it. No, I don't think they do, Ian. The current Eastern Airlines, if I'm not mistaken, is actually Swift. And they just got the rights to put the logo on a couple planes. I may still have them on my phone. I just photographed the Eastern. I think it was a 7.6 that they got, and I think that's Swift Air. At least it was the one that went off the runway with former Vice President Mike Pence on board years ago at LaGuardia. That was Eastern when they were campaigning, and they just scooted off the end of the runway. No one got hurt, but they. I'm pretty sure it was Swift, and I know some guys that flew there. And anyway, so most successful tanks in Japan were captured M3s. Interesting. Yeah, Centurion Challenger do have a similar look. um, the thermal wraps on the barrels help a lot with that. What's the worst thing I ever found on a walk around? The worst thing I ever found on a walk around was not part of the airplane. It was a ramp agent driving the tug with his hand on the accelerator and his other hand on the steering wheel while he walked beside it. Yeah, I'll put a quick end to that. And but I would say the worst thing I have found on a walk around is a bird strike. You know, things like I found a Beach 1900. I found an exploded uh, goose or duck that had gone into the right engine, and the prop had got it, and it looked like Freddy Krueger had been along the side of the airplane. It was just covered in bird detritus. I don't think it actually did much damage, but they found chunks up in the FOD screen, so they had to pull the engine, or at least clean it out and bore scope it. And I found bird strikes and flat tires and things like that, usual stuff. You know, you find the occasional dent. You know, you got a bird or something. One time I did find hydraulic fluid gushing out of a landing gear. I'm sorry, was it brake fluid or hydraulic fluid? No, Skydraw. So it was, I think it was brake fluid. I think it was hydraulic fluid. I'm back. Well, don't forget, Chet Payne had a lot of experience. Do they have a book of Jack Linwood's artwork? I've got Box Top Air Power right over there, and it has a lot of Linwood's painting in it, but it's not dedicated just to him. It's got Joe Amendola and a lot of others, and it's not detergent. He's that is actually. Then remember that was just a proof of concept thing. That's actually kitty litter, and that was just to see if using a granular medium would work. It will. I'm going to need a lot more than 8 pounds. Also, remember this was just a test. This is not a diorama. This was strictly a test of with this concept, proof of concept. That's what we're looking for. And it was a whole lot more successful than the Ford Futura. But hey, look, I can make waves with kitty litter. And by the way, the kitty litter is by and before anybody asked, no, it was not used kitty litter, and it's all back in the bag now. Well, most of it, but I was watching some of the videos that you guys linked to me on making these submarine dioramas. Man, a lot of people, a lot of great techniques out there. Really some beautiful work. So whenever I do get that Godzilla, I'm going to, and you know, time allows. Like I said, I'm going to leave the legs and tail off of it so it'll sit lower. That way I'll need less medium, but I hopefully won't have to cut up the model. And I'm thinking we're going to use artist sands, which are, of course, much finer grain. Of course, we might use something else. And then, but I learned a lot doing this. Believe it or not, playing around with this really helped out. You know, you have this idea, and then you start playing with it. Oh, man, the ideas sound, but I was completely off on what I'm going to need and quantity wise and how I'm going to have to make changes and get everything to set the way I want it to. So I'm really actually looking forward to doing this. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be cool. I'm going to add some more. I'm going to do some more work on the submarine also. I'm going to make it look more intimidating and everything. And did any of you guys, I know one of you knows because I told you, did anybody catch the significance of the number on the submarine? Anybody? I'll just let this run while you guys, ponder that. See how many are true Godzilla fans. Well, Slugo, take care. I'm glad you got to join us, man. It's always fun having you, as many of you guys around. It's high-tech kitty litter. That's right. Well, they're currently irradiating it, so it's blue. Yes, Gabriel nailed it. 1054. Okay, the original Godzilla movie was released in it now. Just so nobody says it's supposed to be 1154, it was originally released in October of 1954 on a limited run, and then saw the broad Japanese nationwide release in November, a month later. But 1054 was the actual release date of the original. No, not the U.S. release date. The Japanese actual original release date. It didn't make it to the U.S. for another, gosh, I think a year or two. I think it was 55 or 56 when it made it to the U.S. But I didn't want to use the actual numbers for the Nautilus, and I wanted to come up with something, cool, Easter eggy. Am I keeping the cat away from the diorama? That's glad I didn't think about that. My wife, but maybe Ruth part of that. Yes, honey did give me permission. But like I say, it worked a lot better when I use a smaller submarine, just because I didn't have adequate medium for the larger stuff. But still, the proof of concept, and who knows? I might make more than one diorama. I might make a little one like this too. What really happened to Dernitz's U-boat fleet? put a little British roundel on it. So a couple of folks have already done the Type 94 attack lizard. They've taken the Aurora Godzilla, putting the Japanese Hinamaru on it, and a kamikaze headband. And the Type 94 attack lizard. I love it. That's a riot. That's the kind of fun stuff I'm talking about. Sometimes it's good just to have some fun with it. Well, guys, I don't really have anything else. What do you guys want to talk about? I know Shep Payne is probably rolling over in his grave looking at it going, you did what? Heretic. Kitty litter. Doody. That's a Caddyshack. I'm all right. Gorgo was an anti-sub weapon. You have to remember, Gorgo was the victim. And one could make the argument, so was Godzilla. As I've gotten older, I've come to realize that the monsters are the people. Yeah, we talked about it. I actually put it in an aquarium, but it was... if I'd had aquarium stones, it wouldn't have stuck to the silicone so badly. Boy, you know what? I've got a couple more subs that you guys sent me now. I may have to put them all together. And how about this for a diorama? Godzilla and the submarine just cutting a rooster tail running away. Not U-boats in the Pacific. Is that really what happened to those U-boats that disappeared at the end of the war? Licensing of a custom car body to fit over existing chassis. If it's an IP, somebody can claim it's theirs. Yeah, they would definitely have to license it. So they did change their name okay. So I guess technically Eastern Airlines is flying as Eastern. Then I knew they had the permission to use the name and logo for a while. But what do you say if you get turd beat out? Oh, shit. Yeah, he never should have been in my neighborhood. I have not built it yet, but apparently it's a pretty popular kit. I'm going to get one to go with Kong's Thronester. And dioramas, it's funny. Dust poop. Okay, stop going there. Have you guys ever bought a model with no intention of setting up a diorama? Then you get home, you look at one of your other models, and you look at and you're just like, oh, and it just kind of, because I know a lot of people, they buy stuff because they intend to make a diorama. But every once in a while, you'll get a couple of models, and you're like, these would make a nice. And the next thing you know, boom, it's just sort of inspiration. Well, the one with Raymond Burr is still a good movie. Did Gore go Sink or Destroy? He was too small. If anybody Sink or Destroy, it had to be his mom. Um, I have. I've seen the thing with. I don't know if you guys have seen it. But it's the Titanic by the iceberg, and it just misses the iceberg, but Godzilla's swimming under it, and his dorsal plates ripped the side open. I was like, well, maybe. There's nothing to have multiple kits going. Right now, I have both of the Lambos and the pirate ship open. And take care, Ian. Thank Ian Atkins, Ian Son. Thank you, Ian, for stopping by. I hope you had a good time, and it's always good to see you here. Um, my wife does the dolls. She's had to build a few models for her dolls, like put things together, but usually she hands that off to me. And yeah, a lot of the repops are geared to people my age or in our age group because they're nostalgia builds. We built them as a kid, and we just enjoy. Like you say, you can't live in the past, but you can visit from time to time. And how many bottles did you build this year? I haven't the foggiest notion. The Caterham, the Monkeys Mobile, uh, 3 submarines, about 6 or 8 aircraft on road builds. Good Lord. The helicopter, well, that was one of the road builds. The Vanguard. You know what? I'd have to go back and watch my own videos to figure out. I'm gonna say 2025 ish, something like that. Um, Pretty much everything you see there, except for the Enterprise. I believe I built the truck and the car this year. The Snark, that was a road build though. The tank, that's what I did that back for the when I did that Exodus, sort of story kit model story. The Enterprise is that's older than that. The Godzilla was over a year ago, I think. So, but I don't know. Good Lord. Yeah, it might be interesting. Maybe I'll run back and check my video inventory real quick and see how many I built. But I would say 20. Now, some of the little 172 scale kits, that were the older, like the Morrison kits, I take those for road builds. They're really, I did the 3 jets at one time. Yeah, somewhere around 20. The Jaguar, the Panavia Tornado. Um, hmm. Oh, the C4. I just did the DC3 also. Um, which I had sound effects to present models. I'm guessing the reason that, although I do have that little Star Trek Enterprise in it that does have the sound card, and you push the button and different lines from the movie come out. I don't think a sound card for a stationary model is. I mean, I don't think that would be a real popular selling point, and it would add cost, and you have to charge more. But I don't know. That might be an interesting little side business. Just make little things for models that have pre-recorded engine sounds or whatever, provided it's not something licensed. Don't forget the big seaplane. Oh yeah, I did the buffalo. I did the. Well, it depends on what you want. I did mine in Marine Corps markings, but those other 148 scale buffaloes I have because I've done so many in Marine Corps markings. I might do one wheels down in Marine Corps markings, but I'm probably going to do one in British markings because I think the British buffalo, that camo and the British round, I just think it's beautiful. I just think it's a very pretty paint scheme. Um, I build one a month, one a week for research, one a week for the build, one week for the painting. That's a good pace. That's a nice, deliberate pace. I tend to build probably a little too quickly, but I build for myself, and which is what I think most people do. And just read some of the comments here. Yeah, the one thing I do have to slow down on is if I build anything balsa. That's very time consuming and delicate, and especially if it's something you intend to fly. I mean, you just have to get everything straight because the slightest twist in the fuselage, slightest twist in the wings, and you'll never get it to fly straight. And my hat is off to people who can do good balsa work because that's art. I mean, that's just it is so tricky. If you're asking about me, yes, I was born and raised in a little town called Quincy up in North Florida, about 20 miles west of Tallahassee. Fun place to grow up, but no place it's just a small town, there wasn't a lot of opportunity there. Well, the thing is that building for yourself, you just work at the pace you're comfortable with. It's not a race. There's no. That's one of the reasons I stretch the time on these group builds is because there's just no reason to rush it. This is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. I would imagine somebody might have, but I haven't seen it. That would be a kit worth putting a sound card in because it's got the gear and everything, and the props and all that stuff. So it's nice to have a sound card in a kit that does something. It'd be cool to put a kit in the Visible 8. And I've seen people do stuff like that. I mean, on YouTube. Well, actually, I've seen a couple of them in real life, but and it's really with modern technology, it's not even that hard. I have behind me here. We have Star Trek models here in the bedroom, and excuse me, the command center. And we have the AMT bridge over there, and I was actually going to get one of those little back when they had the little. It's smaller than a cell phone, and with some had you play little videos on it. And I was going to put one over the screen, have a Klingon ship going by, just to give it some motion, some sound, and everything. But it's one of those things I never got around to doing. I've seen some people will get two of those kits so they can make the complete 360 and get the extra characters. And there's a guy that for a while he was making these vinyl, almost like heavy film stock photographs of the jelly bean panels, and you would cut out the actual paneling and put this in its place and then backlight it. And you can probably find pictures of it on the internet, and man, it really looked good. I was like, that is some impressive work. What is the current group build topic and end date? We're doing cars, and armor, essentially land vehicles. And it can be a civilian car, it can be a truck, motorcycle, tank. And then I should probably get the photos by the 25th of January. Let's see. Let me look at my work schedule real quick. Make sure I'm not giving you guys a bogus date here. Oh, crap. I go to work on the 27th for 4 days. I'm back on the 30th. Yeah, I'm probably going to need the pictures by the 25th to get the thing done in time. What I will probably do is try to get it. If a picture's coming to the 25th, I'll try to get it done by the 26th of January. And then I go out to work for 4 days. And what I'll do is I'll have the thing basically done and compiled. And then if any late ones show up, I can probably tack them on to the end and get it out on the 31st of January. So yeah, it would really help to have them by the 25th of January. And I think the ship build is the one that follows it. And that, I believe, is followed by the airliner build. And we're roughly planning on 2 months for each one. You know, again, first I was thinking about doing one a month, but a lot of people don't have that kind of time. And then the pressure's on, it becomes work. And I don't want that. The whole idea of this channel, this live stream, the works is first just relax and have a good time. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. Build models, the viewers builds. I'll probably put one of those together soon because I'm starting to get some. Any cars that come in right now are going to the Karmer build. So the next viewers build probably won't have much in the way of cars. It'll be mostly aircraft, sci-fi stuff like that. Whenever I think I've got enough. Star Trek in the bedroom. Face are sitting stunning. With the working more dial. This is actually Bluetooth. So I can, and yes, sometimes when I'm in an extra nerd mode, I'll link this to my phone and my phone rings. Kept in here. And people look at me like exactly what I am. What a goober. So anyway, the cable car go to the Karmer build because that's a land vehicle. Okay, cool. No, again, no worries, guys. This is all in good fun. I do like putting out good information when I can get it. But for the most part, we're just here to have a good time and enjoy modeling. When I go to Deezerland to do the judging, of course, I'll have to be, kind of put on my blinders and focus on the best kit and realize that there's only going to be I think a few. They've got it worked out, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the work. It's normally kind of against my nature to criticize work, but because I believe in, promoting people, people put a lot of effort in this stuff, but this is in fact a contest and there's got to be a winner, which means, you've got to discriminate between, and from what I've seen so far, like at Model Palooza and stuff, it's probably going to be a pretty fine line, a whisker thin line between who wins and who doesn't, because some of this work just magnificent and genuinely I could say flawless. And oh shucks, thank you, Mac. Thank you, Andy. Another gift that my wife got me. Anyway, so where spoke when you judge. I'll find a picture of the most what some people have told me is the most hated guy in racing was a Graham Chap, and the guy designed the Lotus. I mean, I have rarely found too many people that have too many glowing things. I get one of those hats like he used to wear and everything dressed up like that, so people can go, ooh, we hate that guy. Okay, well, I'll take you up on that, John Ashley Smith. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. Oh my God, why can't I bump that? Okay, this really hasn't got anything. What is one model kit you'd like to obtain that's no longer in production? I can tell you, since someone already sent me the beta one, a Holy Grail kit, probably, and I found a video of one, would be that ITC Thor, which is the whole thing with the electric motor and all that stuff and all the ITC play value, largely for rarity. And if I ever got one of those complete, well, first off, you got to tell yourself to build it, which I would, because it's like, to find one in the box would probably be $4,000 or something. I mean, if you could even find one. But I would have to make a full size working diorama with all the features and build that, because it's just such a holy grail kit. And I think that's probably the rarest thing out there. Oh, there are a couple of others. Wear a robe and a white wig. Oh, uh, the white stick and sunglasses story. Okay, and this is one of those things that occurred. It was a Continental Express pilot, and they were flying Beech 1900s. Now, the 1900 is a 19-seater, no flight attendant. The first officer is the flight attendant. He sits everybody down, no in-flight service. Anyway, this short run back and forth, and I want to say it was out of Newark. They had a guy that had to go regularly every week to see a specialist doctor, and he was blind, and he had a seeing eye dog, and that was a big deal on those airplanes. So anyway, the guy would come out, with the white stick and sunglasses and the dog, and well, the crews run these same routes over and over again, so they got to know him, and I'm like on a first name basis. Well, and he had a pre-board, so they would send him out first, get him all seated and situated, get the dog seated and situated. Well, one day he goes out there, and while he's sitting there in the airplane, they haven't started boarding yet, the regular passengers, he tells the first officer and knew him, he goes, listen, the dog has to be walked. He hasn't, can you take him around the plane with you or something, give him a short walk? Yeah, if I was like, well, I got to do the walk around, sure. He goes, look, he just goes where you point the stick. So the guy dutifully takes the dog out with the metal handle and the stick, and he knows that the dog will go where he points the stick. The thing is, he's an airline first officer in a uniform with the saucer hat on, but he's also the typical airline pilot wearing sunglasses. Passengers look out the window and see the pilot walking in the airplane with a seeing eye dog tapping the stick as he goes around the airplane. Yeah. The phone bank lit up real quick. I have a lighted optivisor. Actually, you know what I was thinking about bringing? And it's right here. This. I got a feeling I'm going to need a magnifying glass. Of course, my guess is if I'm wearing a badge that says judge and doing this, I'm going to make lots of friends real fast. What a jerk. But, you got to do what you got to do. To paraphrase Drill Sergeant Hartman, I am harsh, but I am fair. Hey, Alf, you didn't miss anything. Bring a spare model, but I'll tell you that. Say it was a loser. No, I have never built a model of one. I've heard good things about them, though. It's dark. Okay, well, guys, it's 9 o'clock, and and of course, you'll always meet somebody who goes, "I was there, I saw it." Well, guys, I'm going to let you chat amongst yourselves. I'm going to sign off. It's 9 o'clock, and I promised the familia that I would go 7 to 9 as usual. And so I'm working that just before I go, just to make sure I got all this right. Next week, next Saturday is Christmas Day. I will tentatively, if I'm free, plan on a 1-hour Christmas Day live stream. We can all open our presents and send pictures if you got something you want me to show everybody. And so we will plan on a live stream Christmas Day, 7 p.m. if I'm available. If I'm not, I'm not. So that's pretty much all we got there. So guys, as usual, super appreciate you tuning in. Hope you had a good time. That's what it's really all about. And, well, that's pretty much everything. We'll catch you guys later and model on.